Hey everyone, welcome back. You know how it is, life's full of transitions, and sometimes those transitions can leave you feeling a little, well, cluttered.
Oh, yeah,
Not just like your physical space, but your time, your mental energy too.
totally. And it can feel pretty overwhelming, right?
Absolutely, and that's why we're here. We're diving deep into advice from organizing expert Susan M. West to extract some really actionable tips for navigating those transitions.
I love her stuff. She's got such practical advice.
Yeah, she does. And this isn't just about like decluttering your home. It's about decluttering your time, your paperwork, and even your mental space to create that fresh start.
Right. It's about making those transitions smoother and easier.
Exactly. So are you ready to level up?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay. So one of the things that really struck me from Susan's work is this idea that someday is today.
Oh, tell me about it. That's a mantra I need to remind myself of constantly.
Right. Like we all have those projects, those tasks that we keep putting off for that mythical someday.
Oh, yeah, those someday projects that never seem to actually arrive.
Yeah, exactly. And Susan actually tells this great story about a client who finally tackled her to-do list by using a friend's knee surgery as a self-imposed deadline.
Like she gave herself a deadline based on someone else's surgery. That's brilliant.
I know, right? She calls it a manufactured deadline.
I love that. A manufactured deadline. I'm going to use that.
Steal it. It's
Yeah.
all yours.
Oh,
But sometimes even a manufactured deadline isn't enough, right? What if you're still a master procrastinator?
well, for those hardcore procrastinators out there, Susan's got this concept called the what matters now filter.
Ooh, tell me more about that. That sounds intriguing.
It's all about identifying your top priorities, especially during those times of change.
So it's not just about getting things done, it's about getting the right things done.
Exactly. It's about being strategic with your time and energy.
Makes sense.
So think about your roles, parent, partner, professional, whatever those key roles are in your life right now.
Right.
And then think about what's causing you the most stress in each of those areas.
It's like identifying those pressure points.
Yeah, exactly. Those pressure points.
Sure.
Those are the things that should be at the top of your list.
Okay, so it's about focusing on those areas that will have the biggest impact on your overall well-being.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Susan uses this example of a client named Lisa who was juggling a lot. She was caring for her aging mother and also had a teenage daughter.
Wow, so she had a lot on her plate.
Oh, yeah. She was definitely in a time of transition.
And so what were her what matters now priorities?
Well, for Lisa, it wasn't just about like having a perfectly tidy house. It was about creating very specific systems for managing her mom's medical paperwork and the family schedules as her daughter started back at school.
Ah, so it was about those things that would give her the most control and reduce her stress in those specific areas.
Yeah, exactly. Because feeling in control of those things would have a ripple effect on everything else.
Right. It's like targeted organization, not just like a general tidying spree.
Yes, exactly. Targeted organization. I love that. It's about being strategic with your efforts.
Okay, so we've got this concept of what matters now to help us prioritize. Now let's talk about how this applies to our physical space.
Okay, let's do it.
And Susan has this great concept she calls everyday space.
I love this one. It's so simple, but so effective.
Tell me more about it.
Well, she says that prime real estate in your home, those high traffic areas, like countertops, easily accessible shelves, those need to be reserved for things that you use on a regular basis.
Okay, so like those everyday essentials.
Exactly. Everything else needs to find a less prominent home.
Ah, so it's about giving those high traffic areas some breathing room, right?
Right, because when those areas are cluttered, it can make the whole house feel chaotic.
It's like that visual clutter just weighs on you.
Exactly. And then there's the infamous one in, one out rule.
Oh, yes, the
Right.
classic decluttering strategy.
I've heard about it for clothes, but Susan had this client who actually applied it to shoes.
Oh, wow. I have so many shoes, that would be a challenge for me.
This client set a limit of 12 pairs per season.
Whoa, 12 pairs. That's some serious discipline.
It is. But it's such a great way to create a clear boundary and force yourself to make choices.
Right, you can't keep adding without letting go of something else.
Exactly. It's all about finding that balance.
Okay, so that's great for clothes and shoes. But what about other areas of the house? Does the one in, one out rule work for everything?
That's a great question. And it leads us perfectly into what Susan has to say about the kitchen and dining room.
Okay, I'm all ears when it comes to kitchen organization. That's my biggest struggle zone.
For a lot of people, the kitchen is the heart of the home, so it can easily become a clutter magnet.
Mine definitely is. I swear things just multiply on my countertops overnight.
Susan emphasizes the importance of defining the function of each room.
So, like, what is the room's primary purpose?
Exactly. And sometimes that function needs to evolve to fit your current lifestyle.
Ooh, I like that idea that the function of a room can change.
Right. It's all about making your space work for you, not the other way around.
So give me an example. How can a room's function evolve?
Well, Susan tells this story about a client who transformed her dining room into a dedicated hobby space for spinning yarn.
Okay, so instead of it just sitting there unused most of the time, she turned it into a space that brought her joy.
Exactly. It had become an underutilized room, so she reclaimed it for something she loved.
I love that. It's about aligning your space with your passions.
Yes, and that's a perfect example of how decluttering and organizing go beyond just getting rid of stuff.
Right. It's about being intentional about how you use your space and making it work for your life.
Absolutely. Now let's shift gears and talk about paperwork. It's a common pain point during transitions.
Oh, tell me about it. Paperwork can be a beast.
Right, it can feel so overwhelming.
It does. Like it just keeps piling up and you don't know where to start.
Well, Susan has this brilliant system she calls the 4 T's: time, tools, triage, and to-do.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Break it down for me. What are the four T's?
So first, time. You have to actually schedule dedicated time to deal with your paperwork.
Makes sense. Can't just wish it away, unfortunately.
Right. Then tools, gather your shredder, your recycling bin, your file folders, whatever tools you need to make the process efficient.
So get everything set up and ready to go. What about triage?
Triage is all about making quick decisions.
Okay, like a first pass.
Yeah. Pick up a piece of paper and ask yourself,
Hmm.
is it trash? Does it need to be filed? Or is there an action I need to take?
So it's about making those decisions quickly and not getting bogged down in the details.
Exactly. If you can decide in under 30 seconds, you're in control.
I love that. Instead of the paper controlling you.
Right. You're the boss.
Yeah.
And finally, to do. This is where you create a plan of action for those papers that require more than just filing or tossing.
Ah, so this is where you move beyond just sorting and actually start taking action.
Exactly. Here's a great tip. For anything that needs action, write down the very next step you need to take and put it directly on the document.
Oh, I love that. So instead of just staring at the paper feeling overwhelmed, you have a clear action plan.
Right. It's about taking control and making progress.
Okay, this is great. I'm already feeling more empowered to tackle my paperwork. But what about letting go of those things that are tied to memories? Sentimental clutter can be the hardest to deal with.
Oh, absolutely. It's so emotionally charged, right?
It is. It's not just stuff, it's memories.
And Susan has a very compassionate approach to this. She understands that letting go of those sentimental items can be really tough.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like you're letting go of a part of yourself.
Right. But she encourages people to ask themselves, why am I holding on to this? Is it out of guilt, obligation, or does it truly bring me joy or serve a purpose in my life right now?
So it's about getting honest with yourself about the reasons you're holding on.
Exactly. Sometimes we hold on to things out of habit or because we feel like we should, even if they're no longer serving us.
Okay, and what if you want to keep the memories without keeping all the stuff? Like, how do you find that balance?
Susan helped a client downsize her clothing collection from a time when she lived abroad. It was really meaningful to her, but she didn't need to keep everything.
Ah, so it was about finding a way to honor those memories without being weighed down by the physical objects.
Exactly. They chose a few key pieces to keep and found a way to let go of the rest without feeling like she was losing those memories.
Okay, so it's about finding that sweet spot between honoring the past and creating space for the present.
Exactly. And, sometimes letting go can be an act of generosity,
Yeah,
like donating items to people who need them more than you do.
that's a good point. It's like giving those items a new life and purpose.
Exactly. So we've talked about physical clutter, but what about the clutter of our schedules? It feels like my time just disappears during transition.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. It's like time just gets away from you.
It's so easy to let our schedules get out of whack, right?
Oh, totally. Like, where did the day even go?
Susan actually has some great time management strategies, and she's a big believer in the power of routines, especially for mornings and evenings.
Okay, I'm a morning person, but evenings, not so much.
Well, Susan suggests thinking about evening and morning almost as one continuous block of time,
Oh, that's an interesting way to look at it.
right? Like prep as much as you can the night before to streamline those mornings. Pack lunches, lay out clothes, gather everything you need.
So basically, set yourself up for success before you even go to bed.
Exactly. Like think how much smoother your morning would be if you didn't have to hunt for your keys or pack your lunch while you're trying to get out the door.
Oh, that would be amazing. No more frantic morning scrambles.
Right. And she doesn't stop there. So once you've moved as many tasks as possible to the evening, the next step is to realistically estimate how long each of those remaining morning tasks will take.
Okay, so like actually time yourself, making coffee, getting dressed, all of that.
Yeah, exactly. Get a good sense of how long it really takes.
And then I guess add in a little buffer for the unexpected.
Yes. Always add a buffer because things happen. Traffic, spilled coffee, a kid who can't find their shoes.
Oh, the shoe, a classic. So you're saying once I have those realistic time estimates and my buffer, then I work backward from my ideal departure time.
You got it. It's like reverse engineering your morning.
I love that idea. It takes the guesswork out of it and gives you a clearer plan to follow.
Exactly. Now remember, we're talking about transitions here. So if you're adding something new to your routine, like a new gym workout or an evening class.
Right, because those things have a ripple effect on your schedule.
Exactly. Factor in the time for those related tasks, like packing a gym bag or gathering your materials for class.
Okay, good point. Because those little things can really add up if you're not careful.
They totally can. And to help you stay on top of everything, Susan recommends doing a weekly review.
A weekly review. What does that entail?
Basically just taking 15 or 20 minutes at the beginning of each week to look at your calendar,
Oh, cool.
coordinate schedules with family members if you need to,
Right.
plan your meals, create your to-do list, that kind of thing.
So it's like a little mini strategy session to set yourself up for the week ahead.
Exactly. It helps you stay organized and proactive.
Okay, I like it. A weekly review. I'm going to try that. So we've talked about taming those schedules, but transitions often involve a financial component too, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure, especially if you're dealing with job changes, a move, or just unexpected expenses.
It's like everything hits at once sometimes.
Right. And Susan really stresses the importance of facing your finances head on.
But that can be so scary. Sometimes it feels easier to just avoid it.
I know it can be daunting,
Yeah.
but trust me, ignoring it only makes things worse in the long run.
Okay, you've convinced me. So what's the first step? Where do I even begin?
Susan suggests starting with a clear picture of your current situation.
Okay, so take inventory of what's coming in, what's going out.
Exactly. Are you paying your bills on time? Where could you potentially cut back?
It's about getting honest with yourself about where your money is going.
Yeah, exactly. And she recommends tracking your expenses for 3 typical months.
Oh, wow, 3 whole months.
It sounds like a lot, but it gives you a really good snapshot of your spending patterns.
So you can see where those little leaks are, those things that maybe add up more than you realize.
Exactly, like that daily latte habit, those impulse buys online. Those things could really drain your budget over time.
Okay, so how do you actually track your expenses?
You can use a spreadsheet, a notebook, or a budgeting app like Mint, whatever works for you.
It's about finding a system that you'll actually use and stick with.
Exactly. Consistency is key. And if you're dealing with a major financial transition, like a divorce or a job loss,
Right, those big life changes.
Susan recommends talking to a financial advisor.
Okay, so someone who can help you create a plan and navigate those tricky waters.
Exactly. Because sometimes you need that expert guidance.
All right, so we've got our time under control. We're facing our finances head on. But what about all those everyday tasks that can easily get neglected during transitions?
Oh, I see where you're going with this. Those things like meal planning, chores, paperwork,
Yeah.
the stuff that never seems to end.
Exactly. How do we create systems for those things that actually work and don't leave us feeling overwhelmed?
Well, Susan's got you covered. Let's start with meal planning, because she's a huge advocate for it.
Even if you're not like a master chef.
Oh, absolutely. It's about simplifying, not complicating things.
Okay, because sometimes those elaborate recipes can be intimidating.
They totally can. Susan's approach is all about starting simple. List out the meals you want to eat for the week.
Okay, so like brainstorming your meals for the week ahead.
Yeah. Then look at your schedule and assign specific meals to different days.
So like if you know you have a late meeting on Tuesday, maybe choose a crock pot recipe or something quick and easy.
Exactly. It's about being realistic and working with your schedule, not against it.
And then once you've planned your meals, create your shopping list and stick to it.
Yes. No more wandering aimlessly through the grocery store, tempted by all those impulse buys.
Oh, that's my downfall. I always end up with way more than I planned for.
We've all been there. And remember those tips we talked about earlier for staying organized in the kitchen?
The notepad for meal ideas, the list for tracking leftovers.
Exactly. Those little things can make a big difference in preventing food waste and those, what am I going to make for dinner? Panic attacks.
Oh, I know those panic attacks all too well.
Hmm.
Okay, so meal planning is covered. What about those dreaded chores? It feels like I'm constantly chasing my tail trying to keep up with everything.
It can be so overwhelming, right?
Hmm.
Especially when you're juggling a lot of other responsibilities.
Exactly. It's like just when you think you've caught up, another pile appears.
Well, Susan suggests incorporating small maintenance tasks into your daily routine.
It's like instead of trying to do everything at once, you're just doing little things throughout the day.
Exactly. Spend a few minutes each morning putting away grooming tools, hanging up towels, making your bed.
So those little things that help keep things tidy.
Right. And then in the evening, spend a few minutes clearing off countertops, loading the dishwasher, straightening up the living room.
It's about preventing that feeling of being overwhelmed by clutter and chaos.
Exactly. And if you're still struggling, choose one area of your house each day and just spend 10 to 15 minutes tidying it up.
Okay, that feels manageable.
Right. Set a timer if you need to. It helps us stay focused.
All right, so we're doing those little maintenance tasks, tackling one area each day. But what about preventing the clutter from coming back?
Ah, that's the million-dollar question, right? How do you keep it from creeping back in?
Because it's so easy to flip back into those old habits.
It is. But it all comes back to that golden rule. Keep less stuff.
I know it sounds simple, but it's so true.
Right. Before you bring anything new into your home, ask yourself, how will I use it? Where will I store it? Is it worth the space it will take up?
It's like a cost-benefit analysis for your belongings.
I love that.
Hmm.
A cost-benefit analysis. That's a great way to think about it.
And what about those maybe items, those things you're not quite ready to part with?
Oh, Susan has a great solution for that. She calls it the probation box.
A probation box? Tell me more about this.
It's so simple. Just put those items in the box. Give yourself a deadline.
Okay.
And if you haven't used them by that date, it's time to donate or discard.
It's like giving those items a second chance to prove their worth.
Exactly. And speaking of letting go, what about those sentimental items? Those can be really tough to part with.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just stuff, it's memories.
And Susan acknowledges that. She encourages people to set boundaries, even with sentimental belongings.
So what does that look like?
Well, you might designate a specific container for them or set a limit on how many you'll keep.
So it's not about being heartless and getting rid of everything.
No, not at all. It's about being mindful and intentional about what you choose to keep.
Right. And remembering that sometimes letting go can be an act of generosity, like donating items to people in need.
Exactly. Okay, so we've tackled physical clutter, but what about that paperwork beast?
Ugh, don't even get me started. It's my nemesis.
Susan's first piece of advice is to set aside a regular time each day to process mail and paperwork.
But finding that time can be so tough. It feels like my schedule is already bursting at the seams.
I hear you, but even just 10 or 15 minutes can make a difference. And here's a tip. Attach it to something you already do.
Ooh, I like that idea.
Right, like waiting for dinner to cook or tidying up after
Because
breakfast.
you're sneaking it into your existing routine.
Exactly. Makes it feel less daunting, right?
Totally.
You know?
But then what? I sit down with my pile of paper and I freeze.
That's where those 4 T's come in again. Time, tools, triage, to do.
Right, right. So set aside the time, gather your shredder and your recycling bin, then quickly sort through everything. Trash, file, or action needed.
You got it. And if it needs action, write the very next step on a sticky note and attach it to the document.
It's like creating a mini action plan for each piece of paper.
Exactly. No more staring blankly at a pile of doom.
I love that. I'm in control. Okay, this is great. But what about those papers that don't need immediate action? Like, where do they go?
Susan suggests using a basket or a mail sorter to keep those papers contained.
Ah, so it's not just sprawled all over the counter.
Right. You can easily move the basket around with you and then return it to its designated spot when you're done.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It's about containing the chaos both physically and mentally.
Exactly. And if you're still struggling to keep up with the volume, Susan suggests increasing your upkeep efforts.
So like if you typically tackle paperwork once a week, try twice a week.
Yeah, exactly. Even a small increase in frequency can make a big difference.
And remember, progress over perfection.
Yes. Don't get caught up in trying to do everything perfectly. Just focus on taking those consistent steps forward.
Okay, so we're making progress, but how can we refine our systems even further?
Susan's got some great tips for that, too. One of my favorites is to pre-sort your mail as soon as you bring it in.
So like before it even hits the counter?
Exactly. Toss the junk, shred what needs to be shredded, and sort the rest. It immediately reduces the volume you have to deal with.
Love that idea. Stop the clutter at the source.
Right. And while you're at it, take a minute to unsubscribe from those unwanted catalogs and switch to paperless billing whenever possible.
Oh yeah, good point. It's about being proactive and minimizing the amount of paper that even enters your home.
Exactly. Now, we've talked about all these great systems, but what happens when life throws a wrench in the works? Susan calls it backsliding, and she says it happens to all of us.
Oh, backsliding. I know that feeling all too well. It's like just when you think you've got everything under control, something comes along and throws you off track.
It's inevitable. Life happens, right? Susan actually shares a personal story about a time when she had to let go of her regular gym routine.
Oh, wow. Even the organizing expert experiences backsliding.
She does. Her housemate needed knee surgery, and then her father had a heart attack. And she knew exercise was important, but adding one more thing to her plate at that time would have been too much.
So she gave herself permission to prioritize other things.
Exactly. And once things calmed down, she was able to ease back into her routine.
Okay, so the key takeaway here is that backsliding is normal. Don't beat yourself up about it. Just focus on getting back on track when you can.
Exactly. It's about being kind to yourself and recognizing that life ebbs and flows.
You're not going to be perfectly organized all the time.
Right. And that's okay.
It's about finding what works for you and giving yourself grace when things don't go according to plan.
Exactly. Now, we've talked about systems for specific areas of your life, but Susan also emphasizes the importance of systems for maintaining your overall organization.
So, like, after you've tackled those initial clutter zones and created some routines, what's next?
It's about having systems in place that support you as you move into that new normal.
Ooh, I like that systems for your new normal.
Right, because life is constantly evolving, and our systems need to evolve with us.
It's not about creating a rigid set of rules to follow blindly.
No, it's about having adaptable frameworks that can adjust as your needs and priorities shift.
So how do we even begin to think about creating those systems for our new normal?
Well, Susan suggests starting by taking a step back and thinking about all your different roles and responsibilities.
Okay, so like I'm a parent, a partner, a professional, all those different hats we wear.
Exactly. And then think about what are the key areas that need your attention in each of those roles.
So it's about getting clear on those responsibilities.
Yeah. And she uses this great analogy. She talks about being the CEO of your household.
I love that analogy.
Right. It's like you're managing schedules, finances, chores, making decisions that impact everyone in your home.
It's a big job. And having those organizational systems in place can make it feel so much more manageable.
Exactly. It's about creating a structure that supports you and frees up your time and energy for the things you truly enjoy.
So what are those key systems that we need to think about as we enter this new normal phase?
Susan breaks it down into 5 main categories: time management, financial management, meal planning, household chores and maintenance, and paperwork.
Okay, so those core areas that we've been talking about.
Exactly. We've already touched on some of these, but let's take a deeper dive into how to create systems that truly support you in each of these areas.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's dive in. I'm always looking for ways to be more efficient and squeeze more time out of the day. Where do we start with time management in this new normal phase?
Routines are key, especially for the mornings and evenings. Remember how we talked about treating them as one continuous block of time, prepping as much as you can the night before?
Right. Pack lunches, lay out clothes, gather everything you need. So you're not running around like a crazy person in the morning.
Exactly. It's like giving your future self a gift. But realistically, even with the best prep, mornings can still get a little hectic. What if you're still feeling rushed?
Oh, believe me, I know the feeling. Some mornings, it feels like a race against the clock.
If you're finding those mornings are consistently a struggle, Susan suggests tracking your routine for a week. See if there are any patterns or bottlenecks that are consistently throwing you off.
Okay, so like what's taking longer than I think it should, or are there things I could do differently?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe there are tasks you can delegate or steps you can streamline to make the whole process more efficient.
It's about finding those little tweaks that can make a big difference.
Right. And if you're adding something new to your routine, like a morning workout or an evening class, remember to factor in the time for those related tasks too.
Oh, yeah, good point. Like packing a gym bag or gathering your materials. It's easy to forget about those little things, but they can really eat into your time.
They can. So routines are great for the day-to-day, but what about that bigger picture?
Right, because sometimes I feel like I get so caught up in the daily grind that I lose sight of the bigger picture.
That's why Susan recommends doing a weekly review.
Now, remind me what that is again?
It's simple. Just take 15 or 20 minutes at the beginning of each week to look at your calendar.
Okay.
Coordinate schedules with family members if you need to.
Right.
Plan your meals,
Mhm.
create your to-do list, all that good stuff.
So it's like a mini strategy session to set yourself up for success.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It helps you stay organized, prioritize your tasks, and prevent those last-minute scrambles.
Okay, I'm definitely going to try that. So we've got a plan for managing our time. Now, what about finances? Money can be such a stressor, especially during times of transition. How do we create a financial management system that makes us feel in control instead of overwhelmed?
Susan emphasizes the importance of facing your finances head on. It can be scary, but it's so empowering.
I know, I know. It's tempting to just bury your head in the sand and hope for the best, but that never really works, does it?
It doesn't. The first step is to get a clear picture of your current financial situation.
Okay, so that means tracking my income and expenses, making sure I'm paying my bills on time.
Exactly. And then look for areas where you could potentially cut back.
It's about being honest with yourself about where your money is going.
Right. And Susan recommends tracking your expenses for 3 typical months.
Hmm.
You could use a spreadsheet, a notebook, an app like Mint, whatever works best for you.
It's all about finding a system that you'll actually use.
Exactly. The point is to see those patterns and then make adjustments based on that knowledge. And if you're going through a big financial transition, a divorce, a job loss, talking to a financial advisor can be incredibly helpful.
They can help you create a plan and navigate those tricky waters.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about time management, financial management now. Let's talk about meal planning. I know we touched on this earlier, but I'd love to hear more about how to create a system that works, even if you're not a culinary whiz.
Yes, because I'm definitely not a gourmet chef, but I know meal planning can be a game changer, even for those of us who are cooking challenged.
It can be.
Huh.
And Susan's approach is all about keeping it simple. Start by listing the meals you want to eat for the week.
Okay, so like brainstorm on my go-to meals.
Yeah. And then think about your schedule and assign specific meals to different days. If you know you're going to have a late meeting, choose something quick and easy for that night.
Right, so you're working with your schedule, not against it.
Exactly. And then once you've planned your meals, make that shopping list and stick to it. Avoid those impulse buys at the grocery store that can derail your budget and your healthy eating goals.
Oh, I'm so guilty of that. It's like those chips and cookies just jump into my cart.
We've all been there. And remember those tips we talked about earlier for staying organized in the kitchen?
Hmm.
A notepad for meal ideas, a list to keep track of leftovers. Those little things really do make a difference.
All right, so we've covered time management, financial management, meal planning. What about those chores and home maintenance tasks that can easily pile up if we're not careful?
Right. Those are important for maintaining your new normal, and they can easily fall by the wayside. Remember those small, consistent actions we talked about earlier?
Like making the bed, wiping down the counters, those kinds of things.
Exactly. Incorporating those into your daily routine can really help prevent that feeling of overwhelm. Spend a few minutes each morning putting away toiletries, hanging up towels, making your bed. In the evenings, clear off countertops, load the dishwasher, straighten up the living room.
It's about breaking those tasks down into smaller, more manageable chunks, right?
Yes. And if you're still feeling overwhelmed, choose one area of your house each day and just spend 10 to 15 minutes tidying up. Set a timer if you need to. It's a great way to stay on top of things without feeling like you have to tackle everything at once.
Okay, that feels doable. Now, we've talked about systems for preventing clutter, but how do you maintain the order you've already created? It's so easy for things to creep back in.
It is, but it all comes back to being mindful about what you bring into your home in the first place. Remember those key questions to ask yourself before you buy anything new. How will I use it? Where will I store it? Is it worth the space it will take up?
Right. It's about being intentional with your purchases and breaking those impulse buying habits. And what about those maybe items, the things you're not quite ready to part with but don't really use on a regular basis?
Susan's probation box is perfect for those items. Put them in the box, set a deadline, and if you haven't used them by that date, it's time to let them go.
It's like giving those items a chance to prove their worth. And speaking of letting go, what about those sentimental items that we talked about earlier? Those can be so hard to part with.
Absolutely. Susan encourages people to set boundaries, even with those cherished belongings. You might designate a specific container for them or set a limit on how many you'll keep. It's about finding what feels right for you.
Right. It's not about being heartless, it's about being mindful. And remember, donating those items you no longer need can be a wonderful way to declutter your space and help others at the same time.
Okay, let's talk about paperwork. It can feel like a never-ending battle, but Susan's advice is to create a system for processing it and make it a habit. Find a regular time each day, even if it's just 15 minutes, and attach it to something you already do, like waiting for dinner to cook or tidying up after breakfast.
It's about sneaking it into your routine so it doesn't feel like this big, daunting task.
Exactly. And remember those 4 T's? Time, tools, triage, to do.
Right. Set aside your dedicated time, gather your shredder and recycling bin, then quickly sort through everything. Trash, file, or action needed. If it needs action, write the very next step on a sticky note and attach it to the document. It's such a great way to prevent decision fatigue and keep things moving.
Yes. And to keep those papers from taking over your surfaces, use a basket or mail sorter. You can easily move it around with you and return it to its designated spot when you're done.
So it's all about containing the chaos, both physically and mentally. But what if I'm still struggling to keep up?
Susan suggests increasing your upkeep efforts. If you normally tackle paperwork once a week, aim for twice a week. Even a small increase in frequency can make a big difference.
It's those small, consistent steps that really add up over time, right?
Exactly. And remember those tips for staying motivated. Progress over perfection, set small goals, and celebrate your wins along the way.
Those are such important reminders. Okay, so we're making progress with our paperwork systems.
Hmm.
Are there any other tips for streamlining things even further?
One of my favorites is to pre-sort your mail as soon as you bring it in. Toss the junk, shred what needs to be shredded, and sort the rest. It really helps to minimize the volume before it even has a chance to pile up.
I love that. Stop the clutter at the source. And while you're at it, take a minute to unsubscribe from those unwanted catalogs and switch to paperless billing whenever possible. It's about being proactive and taking control of the information flow.
Now, we've talked a lot about these different systems, but what happens when life throws a wrench in the works and we fall off track? Susan calls it backsliding, and she emphasizes that it happens to all of us.
Oh, backsliding. I know that feeling all too well. It's
Yeah.
like you're making so much progress, and then life throws you a curveball, and you're right back where you started.
It's inevitable. Life is full of those unexpected twists and turns. Remember that story Susan shared about having to temporarily let go of her gym routine because her housemate needed knee surgery and then her father had a heart attack?
Yes. It's a great reminder that sometimes self-care means being flexible and letting go of those rigid routines to prioritize what's truly important in the moment.
Exactly. And once things calmed down, she was able to ease back into her workout routine. The key takeaway here is that backsliding is normal. It happens to all of us. Don't beat yourself up about it. Just take a step back, reassess, and focus on getting back on track when you can.
It's about giving yourself grace and recognizing that life ebbs and flows. You're not going to be perfectly organized all the time, and that's okay.
You've got it. It's been wonderful diving deep into all of this with you. It feels like we've really covered everything from those nitty-gritty organizing tasks to the bigger picture of creating systems for a fulfilling life, especially after a major transition.
I agree. It's been such a great conversation. And I think one of the biggest takeaways is that it's not about achieving some unattainable level of perfect organization. It's about finding what works for you, creating systems that support your unique needs and lifestyle, and giving yourself permission to be flexible and adjust those systems as life throws you curveballs.
I couldn't have said it better myself. It's about progress, not perfection. It's about creating a life that feels aligned, organized, and truly fulfilling.
So well said. And remember that final piece of wisdom from Susan: the more you are aware of change, the more you can prepare for it and adjust to it.
Such great advice.
Well, to everyone listening, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of organizing with Susan M. West. We hope you've gleaned some valuable insights and are feeling empowered to create a life that feels truly aligned with your values, goals, and aspirations.